CTO Dana Indonesia.
Thank you for having me.
For joining our podcast.
Yeah.
Dana ini salah satu e-wallet terbesar di Indonesia ya, Norman?
Yeah, not bad.
Saya berteman sama Norman bukan di teknologi tapi berawal dari BJJ ya.
Yeah. Good old days.
Good old days. Yeah. How many years
matching
back,
each other? Bisa maybe 10 years or so, yeah.
10 years
Almost
ago,
10
yeah.
years.
And we both are still very young, yeah, at the time.
Yeah, I remember several times latihan at your office juga kan.
Yeah.
Try to smash each other, choke each other.
Dan waktu itu, I actually didn't know much about what you do. I didn't know that you're a technologist, that you like physics and maths. All I know is Norman likes BJJ.
Yeah.
So kita latihannya sama Max dan Budi ya, Budi Hermanto ya.
Betul.
Norman surprisingly orang teknologi suka maths. What brought you to BJJ?
What's the story? So basically I always like to exercise, workout gitu dari zaman kuliah gitu. I work out and then after that try to keep active, work out, stay healthy. But then I don't really like and I got bored doing the traditional fitness bodybuilding drills, the chest day, back day, leg day. I don't really into those. So I live in an apartment kan, terus di apartemen itu ada si Max latihan BJJ.
Oh, same apartment.
Kelas di situ.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
And then sering lihat, akhirnya coba dan I like it terus. BJJ addicting ya.
Adiktif ya, betul.
Yeah.
Saya dulu iseng nanya Max, apa yang buat kamu nekunin bela diri sampai serius banget make it profession? Dia bilang one of the reason adalah dulu waktu dulu di sekolah gue suka dibully katanya.
Okay.
So I guess saya dalam hati bilang jangan-jangan kenapa I don't make it my life karena gue nggak pernah dibully dulu.
Yeah, that's a good reason. Terus kalau pernah lihat si Joe Rogan punya podcast, dia pernah ditanya what's the practical use of jiu-jitsu gitu. Responnya dia tuh very interesting, dia bilang, if you and I were in a fight, I would kill you.
Okay. I remember you have always been very passionate about this. Your posting at social media, and recently you also into CrossFit.
Yeah.
Apa yang menarik dari CrossFit?
Yeah, so basically kayaknya I forgot how and when, but then I got into the notion of the realization that the best instrument you can have in this planet is your body. Gitu. Terus from that notion I need to really take care of my body seriously, gitu. And then again I don't like the traditional bodybuilding fitness drill, and I was just looking and I look at the philosophy of the guys that doing CrossFit, how they put the foundation on nutrition, metabolic conditioning, gymnastics, weightlifting, and then sport. And then I think, this is kind of like multidimensional. You learn how to run, swim, jump, and all this rowing, metabolic conditioning work. And then you also do all the gymnastic works, pull up, toes to bar, muscle ups. But you also do the Olympic lifting, like the cleans, the snatch. So it's kind of like very all round, gitu. Jadi you can run with the runner and you can lift with the lifter. You can do gymnastic with the gymnast guy. So it's all round. That's why I try it and I like it. And then, it's just addicting as well. And then, after that, I found like, why stop at being healthy or active only when you can push it and you can really be strong and eventually become a badass. So I will just keep pushing it.
Yeah. Unfortunately now during this pandemic kita udah nggak bisa rolling ya.
Oh yeah, I don't know when it will be safe again to do that.
Yeah. Saya ingat terakhir waktu dulu di Indovision lantai paling atas kan ada cage campnya Max waktu itu.
Yeah.
And then one day ada anak baru pulang dari US umur 19-20 tahun, dia ajak saya rolling in the cage. Orang tuanya hadir gitu, and looks like the parent was very proud gitu. Aku dalam hati, at the time I was like 46. Saya bilang ini anak pasti akan cepet-cepet ngabisin saya nih, saya bilang kan. I was 46. So saya bilang ya udah gue defensif aja, gue kuras tenaganya aja deh, defense at my best. And he's trying spend a lot of energy mau ngabisin saya aja pokoknya. Saya hampir dibanting begitu.
Slam.
And I was able to escape. Tapi pas mungkin dia tenaganya udah habis, ya saya cycling kan ya, so saya pikir ngandalin my cardio aja, and then apparently last minute dia habis tenaganya, so I was able to.
Guess out.
Diam-diam aku waktu udah ganti baju di toilet hampir muntah saya.
That's the other interesting aspect of BJJ Jiu-Jitsu, because it really leverages efficiency, patience, timing, and leverage. Jadi the beauty of it, it's the only kayaknya martial arts yang give a weak or small guy a chance gitu. Jadi you can defeat bigger and stronger opponent with leverage, timing, and techniques gitu. In other martial arts, if you are bigger and stronger, you will defeat everyone else gitu kan. So I think that's the good thing about jiu-jitsu. Jadi I think you just showcase that it is actually possible. Someone yang rushing it, nggak efficient, not really control, not patience, not really leverage on leverage, ya udah.
So looks like this applies to business, in this e-commerce, a small and agile startup can disrupt a big player, a giant.
Yeah. That's transferable to that. Yeah.
So we've seen a lot of established player pusing kena disruption dari pendatang baru.
Yeah, especially it's a whole new world kan, the whole digital landscape gitu, and some people, some entities, some companies yang nggak ready atau many even doesn't have a clue about this digital world, they will be left behind karena the trend is everyone is moving to digital, so product, services, payment, everything is delivered through digital kan. So if you're not doing it, then you will be left out.
Yeah. So saya masih ingat tahun 2000 waktu boomnya teknologi di US, Indonesia ya masih belum ngalamin ya. So but this time after 20 years, Indonesia betul-betul ngalamin booming seperti itu ya. Yeah. Kemarin weekend saya baca channel News Asia Singapura, Profesor John Colley bilang beberapa tech company, during this pandemic kita lihat mendapatkan benefit luar biasa like Amazon, Zoom, Netflix. Domestik mungkin banyak pay TV yang punya bundling dengan internet kayak First Media. CEO-nya bilang penjualan naik karena mungkin semua keluarga suami istri work from home, 2 anak study from home, so mungkin kuotanya juga harus upgrade gitu ya. Tapi dia juga mengingatkan, Profesor John Colley bilang the next technology crash is around the corner. Karena banyak juga startup yang kena karena financingnya masih awal-awal, atau kita udah lihat Airbnb dan WeWork ya. Gimana pemetaannya menurut Norman sesudah pandemik ini? What will happen to a lot of players, startup maupun yang sudah established unicorn dengan pandemik ini?
Ya, kalau from my view, I think it's not necessarily about startup only, tapi it's about everyone in general. Jadi the whole situation ini apply to everyone. Jadi some startups di bidang teknologi really get the benefit ya, or they got traction because of the pandemic. Tapi some startups slowing down, or even mungkin they eventually has to close because of the pandemic. Tapi not just in startup world, in other part of the business, the non-startup world, the more traditional, the non-tech companies pun it's the same gitu. There are guys yang really get traction because of this pandemic, and there are guys yang not. So I think it is more on the vertical industry, not necessarily about the startup or the more traditional companies. Karena some startups, ya kayak tadi dimention kan about Airbnb, it's about accommodation kan, travel. Travel industry is hit hard by the pandemic gitu.
Yeah.
Dan if you look at it, it's not just Airbnb. Yeah. Hotel industry got hit big time. Airlines industry got hit big time. So they are not startup. Yeah. They are big companies, established entities also got hit, and some of them mungkin juga even closed gitu. Jadi I don't think it's just applicable to startups. So it's more on the vertical. Some vertical will got hit by the pandemic. Some may actually malah get traction because of the shifting of the lifestyle. Kan the issue-nya adalah karena people don't travel anymore, people don't go out anymore, everybody stay at home because of the quarantine, the lockdown, and then everything now is delivered through digital. Jadi learn from home buat students, work from home buat employees, and then belanja untuk groceries maupun other things lewat e-commerce. Jadi everything is being done digitally. Jadi shift of that yang happen. Jadi I think it's not about hitting the startup only. It's hitting everybody, including startup and older companies, but yang ada di certain verticals.
Ya. Ada satu bidang consulting yang in high demand now. You know what?
Apa itu?
Debt restructuring consulting.
Okay.
A lot of company need to restructure their debts.
It's one big problems yang many companies are facing kan. Revisit the payments, contracts with vendors, minta something to get more loose. Because it's difficult for everybody. Jadi
So interesting ya. Now, so kalau at least sampai tahun lalu, even Q1 lah tahun ini, a lot of millennials itu prefer to go and apply with unicorn and startup gitu ya. Sekarang makin riskan ya kalau working for startup juga harus lebih selektif ya, lihat industrinya apakah akan future-nya positif atau negatively impacted gitu ya. What do you think?
So if you are an employee atau fresh grad atau people looking for job and want to get into startup world, a few things yang you can look is basically to me this pandemic is a good test lah. Jadi we can see who actually thrive and survive and who actually got wiped because of the situation. Jadi it's kind of like a natural selection untuk see who's the fittest who can really adapt. So those yang can really adapt and still going strong, these are the kind of startups yang you really want to apply to. So you may really want to apply to startup yang have solutions that really in high demand in this situation atau all round even with out of the situation. You may look at the leadership in that company, in that startup, the founders, the C-level, also the ventures that backing up these startups. Gitu. Jadi these are some criteria that you really need to look at. Gitu.
Dengan banyak PE dan VC juga ngalamin problem, kayak misalnya SoftBank. Apakah buat startup akan jauh lebih susah mendapatkan funding?
The things that I've been seeing last year compared to this year gitu, H1 dan H2 di Indonesia ya this year, number of funding and amount of funding di H2 2020 is actually higher dibandingkan yang tahun lalu.
Really?
Gitu. So that's the reality. Gitu. Jadi
why behind that?
Kalau amount, I think some of the yang sudah lebih solid, yang udah later rounds, I think they just do fundraise for next rounds. Hence the amount is increasing and the numbers. And I think there are just more startup yang coming up with better solutions, with better executions compared to last year's mungkin. Jadi that's why it's actually getting better. I got the data I think from Daily Social, yeah. So that's the situation. And during the pandemic itself, in the last 3 months, itu in Q2, there are still I read in media about startups local, the fintech or in other areas, and actually just raise Series A, Series B. So it's actually still happening. But I think to get the fund will not be as easy as before, but it is possible and it's actually happening gitu. Jadi VCs juga getting more selective gitu ya, can really look at the problem solution fit, product market fit, the founders itself gitu. Jadi VC can really look at the good quality startups, and if they are good, they are actually still willing to invest. So I think that's what's been happening.
Yeah. So now let's talk about Dana.
Okay.
Sekarang bisnis modelnya Dana tuh keunikannya apa sih dibanding your competitors?
Okay. Dana kan in a sense at the moment we are a payment platform, payment systems, and we personify ourselves to as a new wallet. So basically we are a wallet yang electronic. Just think about your wallet that you have in your pants right now gitu ya. What's in your wallet kan? Jadi you have cash in your wallet, you have also credit cards and your debit cards and your ID cards juga gitu kan. Jadi loyalty cards juga mungkin. So all these things are in your wallet. So basically Dana is that, but it's electronic gitu. It's digital. Jadi you can top up saldo di Dana, top up the balance. So it's basically the analogy of cash in your physical wallet. Jadi you can put cash there. The differences between Dana and everyone else right now at the moment is everyone really focuses on that. So it's about topping up the balance. While Dana, because we really see ourselves as a new wallet, you can also bind your credit cards and debit cards in Dana. Gitu. Jadi whenever you want to do payment, kalau di dunia nyata kan you can pay with cash, you can also pay with your debit card atau credit card. In Dana is the same. Whenever you want to purchase pulsa, bayar listrik, bayar air, bayar BPJS, belanja di e-commerce atau belanja di coffee shop, scan QR. Whenever you do that, you can pick the source of fund. Mau diambil dari balance yang di top up in your wallet, just like the cash in your physical wallet, or you can directly potong dari your debit card or your credit card gitu. So that's how we're currently different from the other that really focusing on top up the balance only, and then balance is the only source of fund untuk doing the transactions. I think that's the primary concept. And the business model as a payment, basically we help merchant acquire the money from the user gitu. So the business model is MDR or the merchant discount rate. So basically Dana kan ada platform yang mempertemukan user atau consumer, and then merchants yang jual products or services yang user will pay, and then the other side is the banks yang provide the the virtual accounts or provide the debit cards or the credit card. So it's just a platform yang mempertemukan all these players saja gitu. And then whenever there is a payment event happening, it's the merchants who will pay the service to Dana through MDR tadi gitu. Jadi ada percentage merchant discount rate-nya.
Oke. Profil pengguna Dana itu berapa persen yang generasi X ya? Generasi X tuh ya kayak kita atau yang lebih tua lah ya.
Yeah. I think I need to check on the data itself, but looks like the majority I think is the millennials and the
kan?
Z, the younger generation. Jadi yang X or even before X, maybe get less and less.
Ya, well yang duitnya masih banyak kan Gen X toh.
At the prime time now ya.
Nah, gimana konversi e-wallet ini ke Gen X? Strateginya.
That is an interesting question. So, I think mungkin juga the way the promo and everything is being done really towards the next generation, the millennial, the Z. But I think, there are needs yang Gen X also still needs, like the pulsa kan, bayar listrik for your house, bayar air, BPJS and all these things yang really help the Gen X. So we don't really specifically build something, this is for Gen X, this is for the millennials. It's kind of like for everybody. It's just maybe the adoption rate that happened the millennial, maybe it's just faster compared to the Gen X. I think it's just because of the market dynamics.
Yeah, I always actually amazed dengan kemajuan digital di Indonesia ya. Last 1 year my family kan di Melbourne, saya bolak-balik. Australia itu relatif saya bilang malah lebih ketinggalan daripada Indonesia ya. Nggak ada semacam Dana or e-wallet. Kita bayarnya mostly masih cash, credit card, debit card. That's all. And looks like people are happy. Di Indonesia waktu di Melbourne pembantu bilang, Pak, makanan ikan habis katanya kan. So, I was not panic. Aku tinggal login ke salah satu marketplace. Aku beli makanan ikannya. That's it. Aku bilang sama mbaknya, udah diantar ke rumah. So that's quite an easy life. Norman, dana yang begitu banyak di saldo e-wallet itu how do you monetize that?
Okay, so as a payment platform, kalau dari istilahnya Bank Indonesia itu PJSP, penyedia jasa sistem pembayaran, ya. So kita kan absorb atau collect the fund from citizen, dana balance-nya untuk masuk jadi balance di Dana gitu ya. But we are actually not doing anything with this money.
Jadi nggak boleh diinvest.
No. You cannot. You cannot touch that money. That's people money yang akan dipakai untuk payment. Jadi kalau selama ini mungkin ada orang pikir uangnya mengendap berapa terus bisa dipakai apa? No. Every now and then we make reports to Bank Indonesia about this floating balance, numbersnya berapa. Everything is monitored. So it's not like that. It's not like what many people thinks gitu. So balance is balance and it will be used for payments by the users. Gitu.
But how the regulatory lakukan cek bahwa itu tidak dipakai untuk kepentingan investasi dan lain-lain?
There are many reports that we provide. Ada yang daily, ada yang weekly, ada yang monthly, ada yang 3 month. Itu ke Bank Indonesia with all these numbers. Jadi they see the numbers. Gitu. Terus they can match with everything else ya yang ada di data points itu and the data that they have. So it's being supervised gitu.
I see. Kalau bank yang non digital kan dana deposito dia kasih bunga tapi dia lempar lagi untuk pinjaman kredit kan, and then they make margin from that gitu kan. So
karena they are lender kan, they're banks yang primarily their business model is that. Jadi their business model is providing loans and get the interest from the loans, while on the other side dia absorb funds from the masyarakat gitu kan. Sementara Dana, we are not a lender gitu. We are a system untuk payment. Jadi we provide payment services and we get the interest if we help a merchant acquire the money during a payment event. Gitu. Jadi it's a very different world. Maybe startups fintech yang lainnya yang di bidang lending kayak peer-to-peer lending atau any other startup yang di bidang pinjaman, mungkin they are closer to that model. And these startups mereka itu sama kayak the bank yang doing lending itu diaturnya oleh OJK, Otoritas Jasa Keuangan. On the other hand, Dana yang penyedia jasa sistem pembayaran, we're not there. We are under the supervision of Bank Indonesia, the central bank. Gitu. Jadi all the lender guys itu under OJK, or the payment guys is under the Bank Indonesia. So it's different.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Norman, for the chat. Especially actually the sideline BJJ talk is as interesting as Dana.
For sure.
Hopefully nanti ada kesempatan kita chat lagi. Thank you for your time ya. Good luck for you.
Thank you.
And good luck for Dana.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All the best to you too, David.
Thank you.
Take care.
Yeah. Bye.